This next speaker, obviously, I might know him a little bit well, maybe for all the years of his life. And when I was asking speakers if they were interested, I got one of the most enthusiastic responses from one of the most competitive people that I've ever known, and that's, my son, Austin. And Austin embraced this challenge, which is definitely a new chapter in his growth journey, to put his story together and bring it to us today. And the title of his talk is Getting the Sense Knocked Back into Me. So without further ado, Austin.
All right, those are the All Blacks, New Zealand's national rugby team. They're the most dominant sports team in the history of the world. Since their inception in 1903, over the course of 637 games, they have an all-time winning percentage of 77%. What you just watched was the haka. It's a traditional Maori war dance that they do before each and every match to present the challenge to the other team, to say, come and beat us. That match happened in October of 2017, the week before my final home game as a Yukon rugby player. And if we won that game, we'd win ourselves a chance in a conference championship game. And at Yukon, we watched a lot of film to prepare for games. We watched our own games to fix our mistakes. We'd watch our opponent's film to create game strategy. And we watched professional film to get inspiration, learn new plays, learn new skills, and see how rugby's supposed to be played at the highest level. Now, in this game, the All Blacks forwards, my position group, executed a play that we called the pop pass. Now, the way the play is supposed to work is that a group of forwards gets the ball, and they look for the defensive line to be spread too far apart. And the ball carrier takes the ball and runs directly at one player, and the player to his outside takes a wide angle, and just before the player gets tackled, he passes that guy, and he hits that gap in between the two defenders. We wanted to execute this play because we knew that we had an advantage over the team we were about to play. Our forwards were far more athletic than theirs. They had big, slow guys, and we knew we could exploit that advantage with this play. So in practice that week, we focused on this play. We drilled it over and over and over again until we had it down like clockwork. Game day comes. There's 10 minutes left in the game. The game is still tied, and we've been playing defense all game long. We finally get the ball back. We're driving down the field, and finally our opportunity presented itself. Me and two other forwards find ourselves matched up against their forwards, and they're too far apart. The guy to my inside, he gets the ball. He starts running hard at the guy in front of him. I take my wide angle, and just before he gets tackled, he passes me the ball, and I hit that gap, and I run for the try that would determine the victory for us. Now, how did I even get into rugby? How did I become a rugby player? It's not like rugby is a conventional sport here in the United States. I grew up around here. There's no youth rugby programs. Growing up, I was a baseball player. I lived and breathed baseball. It was core to my identity and who I was as a person. Starting Little League at like the age of 9, spring, summer, fall, I was playing baseball almost every single day. In the winters, I was training with coaches to prepare for the next baseball season. In high school, I was an all-state, all-academic baseball player, and I had the ultimate goal of playing baseball in college. And I achieved that goal. I was recruited to play baseball at Allegheny College, a small school of only 2,500 students in western Pennsylvania. Actually about an hour and a half north of Pittsburgh, Dr. Bobby. Yep. And they had it was a great academic program and a great baseball program. And you'd think that once I got to college, having this dream become actualized, I'd be happy and excited to take advantage of this opportunity. But it was anything but that when I got to college. I really struggled to adjust to this new environment. I was far from home, a small school, in a really small town, far away from my friends, and I struggled with anxiety and depression. and my world felt rocked. I had never felt these feelings before in my life. I didn't know where they were coming from, where they stemmed from, or how to manage them properly. But I tried toughing it out. But I knew that I needed to make a change on the day of our last fall practice. It wasn't even like a real practice. We were playing games, we had a home run derby. It was really more of like a celebration to the end of the fall season. But at the end of that practice, I had this sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And I knew, and for the first time in my life, I was excited for baseball to be over. And I knew in that moment that I needed to make a change, and I needed to put baseball behind me. So I transferred to UConn. But I'm a competitive athlete at heart. I knew I needed to express that some way if I want to get back to feeling like me. But I knew I didn't want to play baseball, and where I was mentally and emotionally, I knew I wanted to play a sport where I could hit somebody. Yeah. And so as I'm transferring, I talked to my uncle who played rugby at University of Pennsylvania, and he convinced me to go out for the team. And I fell in love with the sport. I learned it really fast, and by the end of my first year, I was the starting hooker for the team. I know that's a funny position name. What do hookers do? So a lot of people, when they think about rugby, yep, I got it. When people think about rugby, this image comes to mind where a bunch of guys are locked together and they're pushing on one another. This is called a scrum. And the hooker is right there in the middle. Hookers are in the shit on the rugby pitch. And to my delight, I got to hit a lot of people when I started playing rugby. And I even remember my first tackle. I got caught in a one-on-one situation against a guy that was much bigger than me. He was 6'4", and I mean like a real 6'4". He was a big dude. And the only thing standing between him and the try zone was me, so I had to make this tackle. So he gets the ball, he's looking at me like he is going to level me and score this try. But I got low, I wrapped up his legs, and I brought him to the ground. And as he hit the ground, he dropped the ball and he turned the ball over back to my team. In this moment, I could feel rugby starting to breathe new life into me. And over the course of my 4 years at UConn, I could tell that rugby was having an enormous impact on my life. But I didn't exactly know how it was impacting my life until I read this book, Legacy, by James Kerr. In this book, Kerr goes over 15 lessons about leadership and personal growth that he learned from the All Blacks. This book has been incredibly inspirational to me, and I want to share 3 lessons from that book. Lesson number 1 is sweep the sheds. So in the book, Kerr tells a story about a major All Blacks victory. The captain at the time had become the winningest captain in team history, and there's a big celebration in the locker room. And as the celebration starts to die down, something unusual for professional sports happens. A couple of senior players go over to the corner, and they grab some brooms, and they start sweeping the sheds or cleaning up the locker room after the team, rather than waiting for the maintenance staff of the stadium to come clean up after them. You know, this simple story exemplifies one of the main core values of the All Blacks, humility. Now, humility can be defined in many ways. One way is not being too big to do the small things that need to get done, and leading with a servant's heart. Another way, and one of the main ways that the All Blacks define humility, is being able to admit that you don't know all the answers. And this allows them to constantly ask the question, how can I do this better? I can tell you with certainty at the beginning of my college career, I lacked humility. I distinctly remember a conversation I had with Janine when I came home that first semester. I went out and visited my friends who I hadn't seen, in many weeks, and I came back to her upset and frustrated. My friends were changing. They were all happy. They were having these positive college experiences, very opposite to me. And a lot of them had stopped playing sports after high school, so they were picking up new hobbies and interests that I couldn't relate to anymore. And they felt like strangers to me. And I came back to Janine, and in frustration, I declared to her, I am never going to change. I had this weird idea in my head and this loyalty to some imaginary version of myself that I needed to, stay true to. But in reality, what was going on in my mind was I was scared of change. And I lacked the humility to be able to ask myself, how can I be doing this college experience better? Rugby helped me regain that humility. Like I said before, I'm a competitive athlete at heart. I didn't want to just be a starter for this team. I wanted to be an impact starter. And the only way for me to do that with a sport that I've never played before in my entire life was to attack rugby with a curious mindset. I was constantly asking questions of everybody, my coaches, my teammates, even referees in games, so I could learn the game as fast as I could. I kept asking my coaches, my teammates in practice, how can I do this better? How can I get into the starting lineup? And I brought this curious mindset with me back off the field. And I was able to approach change with a much different mindset, with this curious mindset. I was able to finally view change as a growth opportunity rather than with fear and trepidation. The first lesson, is humility, to have a curious mindset and ask, how can I do this better? Lesson number 2 is adaptability and resilience. I feel like somewhat obvious that if you're going to play a contact sport that doesn't have any pads, you're going to need to be resilient, and you're going to need to be able to adapt to the many hits that you're going to take on the rugby field. And sometimes in rugby, you get a little bloody. I've split my head open, I've split my eyebrows open a few times. It happens. And you might think that when something like this does happen, you're done for the game. Not in rugby. We tape it up, wrap our heads, make sure there's no more blood running down your face, and you get back on the pitch. And you keep playing. You deal with it after the game. But really what rugby taught me about getting hit over and over and over again, because you do in rugby, is to get back up. Rugby is a continuous game. It's not like football that when there's a tackle made, play stops and you reset and you get ready for the next play. It's like soccer. It just keeps going. And as you get hit and you get knocked down, the next play is going on. So you have to get up and start moving to that next play to get ready. Life is just like rugby in that way. Life doesn't pause when you get knocked down. And in life, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get hit in the mouth, and you're going to find yourself in some dark valleys sometimes. But you have to find a way to be resilient. You have to find the strength to get back up, because just like rugby, the game of life doesn't stop. It keeps moving, and it keeps moving on with or without you. Lesson number 3 is legacy. So the All Blacks have a long legacy of success, and they view their jersey, which I'm wearing here today, as a physical symbol of that legacy. And they believe that when you join the team and you put the jersey on, it is your job, you're a steward of that jersey, and it is your job to make an impact and leave the jersey in a better place. So when I reached the end of my college career, I didn't want to just abandon rugby. Rugby had become such a major influence in my life, and it impacted so much, and I knew that it could also impact other young men's lives who might have been struggling like me. So, because rugby is more than just making a tackle, scoring a try, beating the other team, it's more than just a game. Rugby is a brotherhood. Rugby is a community that has a set of values that goes beyond the pitch, that can be applied into your everyday life. So when I reached the end of my college career and I graduated and I moved back down here, I joined the New London County Men's Rugby Club. A little bit of a mouthful. But I viewed that as my opportunity to make an impact and to spread the game of rugby so that the game could hopefully make an impact in other people's lives like it made an impact on mine. And so when I joined the team, we had a great core group of players, but we didn't quite have enough people to field a team all the time. So over the last several years, we've recruited hard. We've introduced rugby to so many people who have never played the game before. We've trained them, and this all culminated this last fall, where we went undefeated and we won our conference championship for the first time in over a decade. Leaving a legacy is about making a long-lasting impact that goes far beyond yourself. I plan to continue to play rugby as long as I'm physically able to, so I can continue to spread the game so that the game can hopefully make an impact in other people's lives like it's made an impact on mine. Rugby really helped transform the way I looked at myself and I looked at the world around me. And I've adopted a lot of the values of the All Blacks into my personal value system. 1, humility, approaching life with a curious mindset so I can ask myself that important question of how can I do this better? Adaptability and resilience, being able to find the strength to get back up. And legacy, making an impact. So if you guys ever see me on the rugby pitch on a Saturday afternoon, you'll know that rugby is more than just a game. It's a way of life. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Austin.